everybody. Welcome to week 2 of Heavily Biased Talks College Football. So we're going to talk a little bit about week 1, our thoughts, kind of a recap of our picks and bets and what worked and what didn't work. And we're also going to get into what we thought of the Texas game. I think I'm a little bit more positive after week 1 than Justin's going to be, but that's all right. And then we'll get into week 2. So Justin, week 1 was a little, I think we both agree it was a little rough on the picks, especially, man, I got to stop going so heavy on parlays, but I had 2 parlays that just died at the very end. I had the under in the Penn State game. They got that literally 3 seconds left in the game. They decided to run another play and scored. And then the Wisconsin game, it was looking good all game. And then Buffalo scored and then kicked an onside kick. Wisconsin got it. And then 2 plays later, something like that, score a touchdown. So it was one of those days.
How'd you do on the the picks you made on the show?
So picks on the show, we both went 2 and 4. So it was rough.
Week 1s are like that 'cause nobody knows what they're talking about yet. Nobody has anything to go off of.
Yeah, so you got the Florida Utah game right. You picked Utah. I missed that one horribly. I thought Florida had a chance to win. What's weird is Florida had a chance to win that game or at least make it closer. Every time they got in the red zone, it seemed like they were turning it over. We both got the Colorado TCU game wrong because I picked the under and you picked the you picked TCU to cover. Yeah, we both got the Boise State Washington game right. I had Washington and I think you took the over, correct?
I can't remember.
I think so. That's what I think. That's what I had.
It's all like I said, man. I live in the
present, yeah. You had the over. You had the over, and you had the over, and I had Washington covering. So we both got that one, and then we both missed out on UNC, South Carolina. Both missed out on Nebraska, Minnesota, and then I picked FSU to win, and then you picked LSU. So both went 2 and 4. I think for me, obviously, Colorado is everybody's pick to be like the most impressive team after week 1. I think it was Florida State. The way they were down by 3 and then they just scored, I think 31 straight. And it just
Colorado
seemed once they got rolling, man.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. I mean, if you go away from this weekend, I take Colorado was the biggest surprise. A close second was how terrible Clemson looked. That was crazy. And then I would say the team that I went away with thinking they're a lot better than I thought they would be, and I thought they'd be really good, was Florida State. Florida State just absolutely dominated that game from the second quarter on.
Yeah, and there were some plays late in the game where Florida State just started bullying LSU. There was one where FSU scored. It might have been their last touchdown or whatever. They ran it in, and the guy just bullied over the guy in the end zone. And it was just like, man, you're just not used to seeing that happen to an LSU team, especially one that's supposed to be really good. So, yeah, FSU.
With Brian Kelly teams, like Brian Kelly is, I think we could, I don't think there's any controversy in saying that he's easily a current top 10 coach, maybe even top 5. Like, again, maybe, but like
I might say top 10, 5. Right? Yeah,
I would probably say top 5. He always has these games sometimes where like he had it at Notre Dame a lot. They just did not show up to play. They got their asses kicked. And like, if I'm an LSU fan, like I'm not feeling good about it, but at the same time, I'm not like, if it was any other coach, I'd be like, oh, like I think Florida is in a way worse. I mean, Billy Napier, man, I thought he was going to be doing, and again, he's only been there a little over a year, but still, the way they look on offense was just atrocious.
Yeah. Similar thing happened last year with LSU. They lost the first game of the season, and everybody's like, man, what the hell is going on? I mean, people were calling for Brian Kelly's job. So I don't know what the deal is, but for whatever reason, they just haven't started off the season well the last 2 seasons. So, and then what was the other game that you just mentioned?
The Thursday night Florida Utah game.
Yeah. So watching that Florida game, it kind of flashed me back to those Charlie Strong years for Texas, where our defense was pretty good, but our offense just couldn't. I mean, I remember getting excited for a first down. We would get a first down, and I'd be like, okay, here we go. And then 3 and out or a turnover. We were literally
Yeah.
winning games 20-17 every time.
Yeah, and again, man, I mean, it does remind me of that because like Billy Napier was kind of the guy. Like that was the guy that I mean, I think everybody was pretty hyped about that that hiring right there, and I don't know, man. It just again, I think that if I'm LSU, yeah, you got your asses kicked, but I mean, Florida State looked really good. Like I think it was a mixture
Yeah, at
of
least you lost to
LSU
a
looking terrible and yeah.
well, at least you lost to a top tier team. I don't know if Utah is going to be that this year, but I agree with you. I think Florida fans have got to be a little nervous because not only did you lose, but you it was not a good showing. I can handle a loss if we did some things right, but they just I don't even know what they have to hang their hat on. I mean, it was ugly from start to finish.
Yeah.
So Texas, well, let's get into a couple of other games that were really good. So obviously, Colorado TCU game was incredible, probably game of the week for sure.
It was
And
a
then
fantastic game.
that Texas Tech Wyoming game, I don't know if you stayed up and watched the whole thing, but that was a fantastic game too. It was just back and forth. It went into I think double or triple overtime, and Wyoming just kind of hung in there. And that's what happens when you let a team who's playing at home kind of stick around. They find ways to make plays, and it kind of bit Tech this time. So those are my
Yeah.
two. Like as far as just watching the game, just they were great games.
Yeah, Big 12 looked absolutely terrible as a conference. The Pac-12 walked away from the weekend looking like the deepest conference in the country. SEC, I think, kind of, they didn't really have, again, other than the LSU game, I think a lot of SEC teams, for the most part, correct me if I'm wrong, other than South Carolina, obviously, had pretty easy matchups. I think this, again, week one's always super weird because, again, Colorado, definitely the story, but Nebraska, they get Nebraska this week. Nebraska looked terrible, so it wouldn't shock me if they go 2-0. And that's what I love about college football. I mean, everybody thinks they know what's going to happen going into the season, and again, Clemson looking terrible, Colorado beating beating a TCU, LSU just getting out physicaled by Florida State. I think this is going to be a really exciting college football season. I think it's going to be a tough one to make picks on every week just because I could see a ton of upsets this year. Personally, I think it's going to be a wide open field.
Well, and also everybody's just assuming that, and again, I don't want to take anything away from Colorado's win because I thought it was a great win on the road, first game for Dion, bringing in all those new guys. But we're just assuming that TCU is going to be in the mix again. TCU might not be that good, so that's what when you were saying that we're going to find out a lot, week to week. I think that's kind of the case with a lot of these teams. You might have looked terrible week one, but 5 weeks from now, how are you going to look? So
I think it's the way
that
TCU
wins.
got beat. I think it's more of how they got beat than they got beat. I think it was that Colorado went in there on the road and like played at a faster pace. Like going into the game, if you would have told me like, hey, how's the and again, I thought TCU was going to beat them like bad. I thought it was going to be like 48 to like 13. So I was way off. But considering that Colorado's not that deep of a team, the fact that they went in there and ran as many plays as they ran and were basically beating TCU at their own game, that was the biggest shocking thing to me. I thought if they were going to win, they'd have to almost win kind of ugly. But dude, they just went in there and like played TCU's tempo even faster. And I don't want to say dominated the game because it was a close game, but they got whatever they wanted on the offensive side of the ball. Like they just, Sanders, again, I didn't get to see a lot of him or Travis Hunter, but those two guys definitely, I get all the hype they're getting right now. And again, that it's so important, in my opinion, that Colorado beats Nebraska, because I think that if they go out and lose to Nebraska, a lot of, and they play bad, like a lot of that hype train slows down. So I think they're taking full advantage of the nation focused on them 100% right now, and rightfully so.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about Texas. Obviously, Texas is our team. I thought that
Sorry,
Texas didn't have a great showing. Do what?
I hit the mic. I said sorry. I didn't know if it went off.
Oh, you're good. So I didn't think Texas had a great showing, but the second half kind of eased my nervousness or my anxiety about it a little bit more, because I knew that going in, I knew that they weren't going to show a lot of their kind of heavy duty packages, or the ones that they're going to lean on throughout the year, because they have Bama this week. So they're not going to give away a lot. And I thought the defense looked great, fantastic at times. And I thought the offense was very sluggish in the first half. But in the second half, they came out touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. And it kind of eased my my anxiety about it a little bit more. So I know I'm a little bit more positive than you. There's times where we're watching the game and I just kind of have to go get something to drink, because I'm just like, God. I know, man, we've been through years and years of just hearing like, is this the year? Is this the year? And then they come out flat, and it's just, God, man, can we just put someone away like we used to? 35-0 at the half, 35-10, something like that at the half, and then just cruise. But
yeah,
but go ahead.
That's
What were your thoughts?
That's my thing. I feel like Texas, where they get sideways with me a lot, is there's no sense of urgency on the offensive side of the ball a lot of times. Like you said, the defense looked phenomenal. It's week one. It's Rice. I'm anticipating we're not going to look great. I'm anticipating that we're saving a lot of game plan for Alabama next week. I get all this stuff, but still, if you're going to do what they have the talent to do this year, which is not only win the Big 12 championship, but compete for a national title. Again, if we're just talking talent on the roster, they have the ability to do those things this year. It was a super disheartening performance for me. And I'm not trying to overreact to week one, but Quinn looked terrible in the first half. I think he looked a lot better in the second. I think once he started utilizing his legs a little bit, that opened things up. I think that's what he's going to have to continue to do this year.
Yeah, they got to do that. I feel like they need to let him run a little bit.
And I think Brooks looked really good. We didn't get to see much of Cedric Baxter because he got knocked out of the game. But I think that the running game is going to be solid. It really comes down to Quinn. I mean, that's truly what the season's going to come down to. Is if he's going to be all he has to be is he has to be good. I don't even think he has to be phenomenal this year for Texas to win the Big 12. I think he just has to be good. And to me,
I agree,
he was good in the second half. He wasn't good in the first half. I didn't think they came out with that sense of urgency. There must be a little bit of a delay, so we'll have to know that. I don't think there was that sense of urgency. I think Sark falls in love with trying to throw the deep ball every chance he gets. I don't think we take easy completions. And so I just think that's a recipe for getting beat in that. And, we're going to get into this with the Texas Alabama preview later. But you do that against a team like Alabama, you're going to have a long day.
Yeah, I do think they rely on the deep ball a little too much. I wish they would just get, just do it. I mean, Florida State was killing LSU with just quick routes. I'm just like, why can't we do this? Let him get 5-6 completions in a row and then go deep if we want. But I just feel like it's almost kind of predictable. They're going to go deep first drive, 2 or 3 plays in, they're going to throw it deep, And I know they're trying to open things up, but at the same time, man, I would like to get Quinn a little bit more comfortable each game before we start just chucking it around like that.
And the last thing overall, I'll say, because again, unless you're a Texas fan, nobody really gives it. Like, let's be honest, nobody cares about the Texas Rice game unless you're a Texas or Rice fan. A lot of people will be interested in this upcoming week. But the last thing I'll say about Quinn is, he's got, everybody always says he's got all this great arm talent, which I totally agree with. And I don't know nothing about the quarterback position, but this is just based on what I hear, is people say that he has a tough time with like his footwork and different things like that. So again, to me, the recipe for that is like you just said, like, let's try to utilize the entire field. Like, let's get Sanders in the middle of the field. Let's get Whittington in the middle of the field. Worthy is an incredible player, but I feel like we try to just do one thing with Worthy, and that's throw it 50 yards downfield. Like, get the ball in his hands and let him do a lot after the catch. Like, I do not understand why. And again, maybe we're saving that for Alabama this week, but that's my big complaint is I feel like this year they should have hit the ground running, jumped up on Rice because Rice is not good, and jumped up on him early.
Yeah. All right, so we kind of went over our week 1 picks. So let's get into week 2. There are some great games this week. I think this slate overall is probably better than last week, especially at the top with Texas, Alabama. There wasn't really a matchup like that. Well, I take that back. FSU, LSU. So I would say they're kind of similar, but I think that this slate's a lot more intriguing than last week's. All right, so first game on the slate, Utah going to Baylor. Baylor is a 8-point underdog. The over-under is at 47. Justin, who do you like in this game and why?
I like Utah in this game, but I'm staying away from the line on this one. I'm going to go with the over because I think that this is probably the lowest you're ever going to get a Baylor over under this year. I think it's because I'm going to pronounce his name wrong, but Chapin, I guess that's his last name. How do you pronounce it? But he's out, for a couple more weeks. I'm not sure if Cam Rising is going to play. I'm not sure if Jackson, Utah's running back, is going to play. I know he only got about 5 carries. This is just kind of one of those things where I'm looking at 47 points. And I think with a week, with teams getting adjusted to the new style of play, because a lot of teams are getting less plays in, I still think there's going to be a lot of big plays in this game. So I'm going with the over on this one.
I'm actually going to take Baylor plus the 8. I just think this, I kind of on the opposite end. I think this might be an ugly game. And I think Utah probably still wins, but I just think Baylor's back is against the wall. You're gonna get Baylor's best shot this week. So I think they come out, they fight. Is that enough to win? I don't know, but I think they cover the 8.
I like Baylor game plus 8 as well, so I'll do both. I'm with you on that. Baylor plus 8, but the bet I like the best is the over.
Okay. Second game on the slate is Nebraska going to Colorado. Colorado ranked in the top 25 now, number 22. Over-unders at 59.5. Colorado -3. I'll go ahead and start on this one. I think, I'll be honest, that line to me is weird. I think that's almost like a gimmick line because you would just think that with Nebraska losing to Minnesota, not looking good, Colorado, talk of the town. I mean, I'm surprised this isn't at least a 7 to 10 point line. So give me Colorado. I know Vegas probably knows something I don't, but give me Colorado because I just think that's a crazy low line for this game.
This line feels like a trap line to me. Like,
yeah,
I feel like
it does.
I'm just like, dude, after everything, after how terrible Nebraska looked, after how good Colorado looked, everybody's betting Colorado -3 on this. Like, I would assume. So that's why I'm going the opposite. I'm going Nebraska with the +3. Like, I have no basis on that. I think Colorado has 3 really, because Edwards, the running back, looked phenomenal too. But they have 2 like game-changing talents on their team. But this week they've heard how great they are. All week they've heard that they're the favorite going into this. I think they could easily win the game, don't get me wrong, but that line just kind of, it's so weird to me that I'm gonna just have to like go the opposite way. And I'm probably gonna lose a lot this year betting against Colorado because they're probably gonna be better than I'm thinking they're gonna be. I'm taking Nebraska +3, and I'm taking the under. I think that a lot of times with week 1, I don't think there was no film. Yeah, there was film you could go back and watch from Jackson State, but there's not a ton of film on this Colorado team. Nebraska's got that film now. They have a couple days extra rest. Because then they play on a Friday or Thursday or Friday last week, or
Nebraska played on a Friday. Or yes, they played on a Friday, I think.
Yeah. So I think that Nebraska did a good job. Like, even though I said Minnesota was going to run for 200 total team yards, they didn't get that. So Nebraska did
No,
pretty good
not
against
even
the run.
close.
They lost a game that I think they should have won. So I think that Nebraska can win ugly. And I think they're going to have to make this an ugly game. I think they're going to really try their best to make it a low possession game. So, again, I'm going to be the idiot again who bets against Dion in Colorado, but I'm just going to go with Nebraska the +3, just based on the line being so weird.
Next game up is Ole Miss, number 20 Ole Miss going to Tulane, who's the number 24 team in the nation. Tulane is a 7.5 point underdog, 65.5 to over under. I'm just going to take the over in this one. I feel like this is a track meet. I'm not sure which side of that as far as the line goes, but give me the over in this game. I just feel like it's up and down. Both teams are going to want to score points. Both teams, I think, are going to be able to score points. So give me the over.
Yeah, I'm taking the over as well. I think this is going to be an absolute. I think this. I'm so if it wasn't for Texas Alabama, I'd almost say that this is my second most anticipated game of the weekend, because I think this is going to be a phenomenal game. I think Pratt, the quarterback out of Tulane, I think this dude is phenomenal, and I think that this is his chance to kind of put his name, kind of get his name on the Heisman a little bit, kind of get his name out there to people that maybe don't follow as much. I'm taking the Tulane plus. You said it was 7.5. I'm taking the +7.5 for Tulane, and I'm taking the over. I really like both those bets this week. I'm feeling really good about. I think Tulane could win this game outright. And
They
I
won it
just can't
last
wait.
year.
I think this is going to be, like you said, a high scoring game.
Yeah, I was just saying Tulane
Say
won
what?
this game last year. I think they played last year and Tulane won this game.
Yeah, I just like Tulane a lot this year as well. I think Pratt. I mean, last week I think he only had like 4 incompletions, and again, this game to me is going to could be the game of the weekend. I think that this is going to be a like come down to the wire type of game. So give me Tulane +7.5 and the over.
Next game, Texas A&M, who is can't remember what they were ranked.
I think they're like 18th or something, right?
No, they're 23rd. So 23.
Oh, okay.
Texas A&M at Miami. Miami is 4.5 point underdogs. Over unders at 51. This might have been the toughest game to pick just because Texas A&M looked good last week against inferior competition. So is that offense going to be more in line with what the defense can do? We'll kind of get a better picture of that this week. I'm still riding A&M to cover this. I can never really count on Miami having a home game because their home game situation is so weird that it's almost like it's not. And I just think A&M might have a little bit more juice this year offensively. Bobby Petrino calling plays. So give me A&M. I'm not sure on the over-under because I could also see this being an ugly game, but give me A&M to cover.
Yeah, and these over-unders are weird too, man. It seems like some teams have adjusted quickly to the new rules and everything, and a lot of teams haven't. So like I could see a ton of unders this week, just like in week 1. But again, some teams have looked a lot better. I think Texas A&M is one of those teams that looked really good last week. They actually have a good test this week. I'm not sold on Miami just yet, so I really kind of like Texas A&M in this game quite a bit, actually. So give me Texas A&M on this one, and I actually like the over. I think Texas A&M puts a lot of points on the board this week. And it pains me to say it, but I think Texas A&M's got a pretty. I mean, again, we're going based on one game, but I think that with this win, they could get a little momentum going into SEC play. So, yeah, give me Texas A&M and give me the over.
You don't have to pick both over and the spread, right?
Yeah, but I want to. Why shouldn't we?
Okay,
why shouldn't we give the people more? I don't understand.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Just wanted to make sure we're on the same page. Pick whatever you want. That's fine.
Yeah, I'm on the page of giving the people quality information.
All right, next game up, Oregon, number 13 team in the nation, at Texas Tech. Texas Tech trying to bounce back from last week's loss to Wyoming. 6.5 point dog in this one. 69 the over under. That Tech loss, look, it's one thing if you're kind of in the background and you kind of sneak up on people and surprise people, but Texas Tech has been pretty vocal about where they feel they should be in the conversation, not only in the Big 12 but going forward. And when you lose a game like they lost to Wyoming, I mean, you're gonna hear about it from people, and I think they're getting that this week. I just think Oregon's going to put up too many points for them to. I'm not sold on their quarterback at Tech, so give me Oregon. I think Oregon covers, and I think this could get ugly. Like if Texas Tech gets off to a bad start, this could get ugly pretty quick.
Yeah, and I also want to add, at the beginning of the show, you could say, hey, we're doing the winners or the over-under. So I think establishing that would be good as well for the not only for the listeners, but for somebody who comes on here to make great picks.
I just said you could pick both. It was just you were like it seemed like you were picking them. You picked it in every single game, so I was just making sure that. But again,
what am I getting
fun.
judged for? Like what am I getting? Like I went 2-4 last week. Are we getting judged for the wins and losses?
I mean, I think there should be some penalties if we don't come through for the audience. Yeah.
All right. How about this? How about I always pick the winners, but if I like an over or an under on a game, I'll mention that.
No, dude, pick whatever you want. It just seemed like you were picking both to pick both. If you want to pick both, have at it. I don't care.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, here's what I like. I like Baylor. All right. I like Oregon. See, man, got the wires crossed. Listen, let me focus here. I like Oregon. I think that Tech, I'm telling you, it's not a good look when the commissioner of the Big 12's coming out here, like kind of rooting for your team. Like, I think that was the curse. I think that the commissioner coming out and saying, hey, I think that cursed Texas Tech season. I think Texas Tech's going to get their asses kicked in this game. I really, really do. Like, I think that Bo Nix is going to come out there and throw for over 300. I think that Oregon's going to run for 125 at least. I'm thinking this is a 600 total yards of offense game from Oregon. And if it's not, then Oregon's not as good as I think they are. But I actually picked, I don't know if you remember this from episode 1, but I actually picked Oregon to be in the national championship game.
Yeah, I remember that.
So I just think this is a time for Oregon to really put their foot on the gas, to really kind of send a message to the Pac-12 like, hey, we go in, we win games, we win them big. I'm totally with you. This game could get ugly quick. I think Tech has to almost get out to a perfect start and control tempo. I don't think they will. I think Bo Nix has a huge game, and I think Oregon wins by at least 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, and I just look that whole thing with the Big 12 commissioner. I just think that was so classless. And again, I know it was kind of in jest and it was kind of a joke thing, but I just think, look, you have 2 schools that, they're leaving, but they also held that conference up for pretty much every year that, as far as financially and interest, like that's what people were coming to see football-wise, Texas, Oklahoma. And I don't know. I know it's a messy breakup and people are going to handle it the way they want to handle it, but I just thought that was kind of low class. But
it was just lame.
So
it was lame is what it was.
Yeah.
And if I'm a Tech
fan,
fan,
and again,
yeah.
Well, I was going to say, yeah. And again, maybe he put the curse on him, because I do think Texas Tech has gotten a little cocky after last year's win against Texas, a game that Texas should have won. I mean, all the games that Texas lost last year, they were in position to win, and that was on them. But yeah, I just feel like this could be a year where they come back down to earth a little bit. But this is a big game for them. If they could turn their season around back on the right track if they could pull out this win. All right, so last game of the night, will be Texas, number 11 Texas at number 3 Alabama. Game of the week, game day. Josh Pate, everybody's going to be there. This is going to be, as far as non-conference games, this is probably the biggest one. And again, I think it's mainly because it's at a home field. It's not at some neutral location or something like that. So Alabama is a 7-point favorite, over under at 54.5. Justin, tell me your thoughts on this game.
My thoughts are that I think the line is where it probably should be. So that, to me, that's like, I think you're getting good value on either side of the bet. I think that Alabama has a little chip on their shoulder, even more so than Texas does going into this game this year. I feel like Texas had something to prove last year to themselves. And I think they really kind of caught Alabama off guard. I think Alabama, that was one of the weaker Alabama teams in general anyway, but I think we got them at home. I think that, everything kind of lined up for Texas to win that game, and they still couldn't get the win. I think Alabama's going to be ready on this game. I think they're going to be extremely ready. And the question mark will be the quarterback play from both sides. I think that's what's going to decide it. I think both defenses are going to be great. I'm going to go ahead and tell you I'm taking the under in this game. I think it's going to be another game that's going to be finishing probably like in the 20s, low 20s. I think that if Texas can get out to a quick start, and they don't even have to do anything with the deep ball, but I think if Texas can get out to a quick start and Quinn gets comfortable, I think Texas can win the game. And I hate picking this, but I don't see that happening this week. I feel like this reminds me a lot of when Texas, the year they won it with Vince Young, they went in Ohio State and got a great win, and that propelled them to the national championship game. I think this game means a lot more to Texas than it does Alabama. And I think if Texas does win the game, I think it could propel them into that type of season. But all signs to me just point that Alabama is going to be ready this time around. I think Saban's going to have a really good game plan. I think that they're going to run the ball a lot. I think they're going to try to control the clock a lot. I think they're going to try to keep Texas's offense off the field. And so I'm going to take Alabama with the -7.
So you're going to do under and Alabama?
Yes. Yeah. And I hate that because I'm going to be rooting for Texas big time. I mean, we know this, but if I'm just picking what I think is going to happen, sadly that's what I think. I think Alabama, Texas has to be careful, in my opinion. Texas really has to be careful that they get out to a pretty decent start. I think Alabama is going to be ready.
I'm with you on most of what you said. So I'm also taking the under in this game. I think this is just a back and forth. I think this comes down to the last couple of possessions, probably looking at tied ball game or one possession game going into the fourth, and it's just back and forth. If Alabama didn't have a brand new quarterback, I think I'd be a little bit more worried, but I just feel like our defense is at that level where we can compete with anybody. The offense is going to have to make some big plays, and they're going to have to keep drives going. But this kind of reminds me, you said that you think Alabama will be ready for this game. I normally think that too, but the last couple of years that Alabama has played A&M beat Alabama a couple years ago, I believe, and then they almost beat them last year. Like, it was a real close game. So I think sometimes teams they're just kind of built to hang with Alabama, especially when Alabama doesn't have those generational quarterbacks yet. And who knows, Milroe might be that one day, but I just think that Texas is deep now. Their defensive line is very deep. They have guys all over the field that can make plays. Offensively, one of the best wide receiver rooms in the country. And when Quinn was in there last year before he got hurt, they were throwing it all over the field on that secondary. I'm not going to pick the game one way or the other team-wise, but I do think this is a battle back and forth, and I do think it's an under game. I would be shocked if either one of these teams hits 30 points. I just think it's going to be that kind of back and forth. Defense makes a couple plays. Offense, I think it's gonna be a fantastic game, but I don't know if the line wasn't 7. I'd probably say yeah, Alabama has a better shot just because they're at home. But I do think this is a battle.
If Quinn was as good, or he might be, but if Quinn was playing at the level that he's projected to play at, I guess you could say, to me, this would be a no-brainer. I'd pick Texas because I think that Texas not only has a great running game, I think Texas is going to have another great running game this year. I think I think Brooks to me looks really good early on. If I knew that Quinn was going to make the throws that he needs to make, I just haven't seen it yet. That's the big mystery. And I know that Alabama's got bigger question marks, but I always give the edge to the home team on these non-conference games. I feel like a lot of times the home team, especially a home team like Alabama, who's used to having all the hype around them. It's not like, game day's coming there for the first time. And, I don't know when the last time they're actually there, but they're used to kind of having the target on their back. I think oddly enough, they probably feel a little bit like the underdogs in this game, as weird as that sounds, because I think that they know that Texas should have had it last year. But just talking based on this year, it's truly this whole season and plus this game to me is going to come down to Quinn Ewers. I mean, if he can show me, and again, play calling has a lot to do with this, but if they utilize the whole field, let him make some easy throws early. That's what always bothers me with Texas. They start the game by throwing like 3, go routes or something. It's like, dude, let him get comfortable. If Quinn gets comfortable in the game, I think that Texas could win this game and actually put some points on the board. But I really think that this game's going to be decided and I know this sounds crazy, first quarter. Because I think that that's how important it is to get, we're going to see what quarterback gets comfortable the quickest. Because I think both quarterbacks still have a lot to prove. So I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be a great game. The fan in me thinks Texas is going to go in there and pull this off. The analyst, which I'm really not much of, but the person just picking games, if I had to take my bias out of it, I would probably feel good about the -7 with Alabama. But I think I'm with you. I think this game is going to be a great game. I think it's going to go back and forth, and we'll see.
So yeah, in closing, I think I'll disagree with you a little bit. We've seen Quinn make throws, which lets us know that he can do it. He just hasn't done it consistently enough to where we're comfortable. He'll have a game like OU where he's just throwing it all around the field, getting multiple people involved the first half against Alabama. But then he'll have games like TCU last year where it seemed like he couldn't complete anything. So again, I think this is his chance to really kind of put his name in the hat of top quarterbacks in college football, and I think he's going to come out and I think he's going to do it. So
this is the game.
That's our picks.
This is the game for him.
Yeah.
This is the game that he has to prove that, in my opinion. I think we've given him a lot of time, and when I mean we, I mean the nation. He was still, probably the 5th in Heisman odds going into the season. I just don't think he's proven that on the field yet. This, like you just said, this is his opportunity to kind of start getting people to be like, all right, this dude is really good. But I think if he comes out and has a terrible game, it's just one of those things. You got to throw your hands up. The play calling's got to be there. I think both coaches are going to have great game plans. I'm with you, though. I could definitely see a defensive battle, turnovers decide the game type of game.
Yeah, and this is just one of those games to me that it feels like if Quinn plays up to his ability, this is something that could propel him into a top 5 pick at the end of the year if he wants to leave. I mean, I know that sounds crazy, but we've seen it happen numerous times where one big game kind of propels them all season, and I think you could see it with Quinn in this one. So, all right, so that's our picks. Let us know which ones you agree with, which ones you disagree with, and we'll be keeping track. Hopefully we have a better run than we had last week. So thanks again for sticking with us, and we'll see you next time.